Hi, everybody. And hello to those of you out there who will be watching this later. What I wanted to talk about today is how your customers, you as partners, are finding ways to unlock the value of edge to cloud continuum, and how you're finding that in terms of accelerating for your customers, and particularly accelerating their monetization and your own monetization of this continuum. For the last 17 years, we've been delivering, AWS has been delivering the cloud value proposition to traditional IT customers. And those customers have appreciated cost efficiencies, agility, scale, security, reliability, all the attributes of the cloud. And we've seen this now take further hold from regions to metro areas to on-prem and to the ever-expanding edge. And the edge is a constantly redefined space. We see that now there's additional need, not just to go from cloud to edge, but really to go from edge to cloud, to take advantage of the cloud value proposition for applications and workloads and customers and partners that live on the edge. They want to be able to achieve that value in the cloud as well. And whether that's for cost optimization, better customer experiences, right, better business value. I want to talk about that today. I want to talk about how we're seeing this happen in telco. We've been doing it for the IT space for a very long time, and now we're doing it for the OT space. And it's exciting. Being here this week and watching and seeing and talking to customers, what they're doing today, it's beyond exciting. So I'd like you to just take time to introduce yourselves, what you do, what this means to you, and then we can get going.
Thanks, Wayne. So I'm Andy King, and I work with John at Slalom. I run our global IoT practice out of Emerge Next. We're an incubator for new capabilities. And as you've alluded to, edge and edge to cloud and hybrid edge is actually a very important area for us to focus. I also teach at Northeastern University and have a book out with O'Reilly Media. So that's who I am. Thanks for inviting.
By the way, it's a good book, if you haven't seen it. I'm Iyad Tarazi, CEO of Federated Wireless. We're a software and services company focused on shared spectrum and private wireless, a lot of edge stuff. So we are a 100% AWS shop as well. So we've seen that interaction between capabilities AWS has, edge deployments of applications, and how do you actually deliver services and software very efficiently and at high quality at the same time. That interaction is beginning to work and work quite well. And I'm looking forward to talking about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. I'm John Tomik. I'm a managing director here at Slalom Consultancy. And probably more relevant, I am also the creator-founder of Slalom Element Laboratories in New York City, where we have been actively working with our customers, doing some very fun experimentation, pushing the limits on connectivity and compute, running things like private 5G networks, edge compute servers, playing around with all kinds of use cases across all kinds of industries.
I'm Debika, Bhattacharya. I am the Chief Product Officer at Verizon Business. Verizon Business, as you may know, is a $32 billion segment of Verizon Communications. So as the product leader, I own the segment. I support products for all our different B2B segments, wireless, wireline, and edge compute, 5G, all the product set. And we had a relationship with AWS on the edge compute side of the business from the early days. So it's been a fantastic partnership. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you all. And we also appreciate the partnerships that we've developed over the years with each and every one of you. Customers are generating a tremendous amount of data at the edge. And they really need the ability to process that data at the edge, and they need the connectivity, at the edge and back to the cloud. How are you seeing customers do this? How are you seeing your partners do this? Why is it important to them? Why is it important to your businesses? Why is edge to cloud fundamentally important today?
Sure. I'll give you an example, but nothing's better than an example. We have a deployment now with Cal Poly, university out in the West Coast. It has been an AWS shop for quite some time, where students and faculty have done a lot of work on developing cloud applications and understanding how you migrate applications into the cloud. A student in that university now is consuming 20 IP addresses and about 20 times more data than when their Wi-Fi network was built. Solving it by running fiber and cables and Ethernet switches and more access points for Wi-Fi is a very expensive proposition. Applications are not stopping. They have students that go to sleep watching Netflix, get up, Netflix is still running. They have students that are running gaming sites right on their laptops. They need data. The solution cannot be figure out a way to move all of that to the cloud and not have a local presence. We've deployed for them a private 5G network using shared spectrum, starting with their innovation center, and they're beginning now to experiment how to move and support their students for higher data, more applications, more fidelity with 5G to complement their Wi-Fi network. They're using an edge compute device from AWS. It's part of the Snow family, and their applications are residing on it. Some of them are as silly as Fitbits that track chicken in order to figure out cycles of eggs, and some of them as serious as security cameras for students in areas of the campus where it's not safe to walk alone. All of that is not possible without an edge compute, and all of it is not possible without the knowledge that they gained by programming applications in the cloud and taking all that knowledge, all that expertise, all of that resident capability and moving it seamlessly into their edge compute application development. That's an example.
Yeah, one of the things that we've seen at Verizon, given our significant investment in 5G spectrum, is where edge compute is a very natural adjacent capability to the low latency capabilities that 5G brings. And what we've seen are the solutions that only edge can enable. For example, when we look at our connected venues, we have cashierless checkout, crowd analytics, we can do accelerated access. All these applications that use large amounts of data and require low latency that you can only have with the combination of 5G and edge. And as you talked about, starting at the edge, even within manufacturing, within logistics, where they're starting to put many more cameras and they're using intelligent video analytics, the processing of that has to be local, and then it's only the metadata or the anomalies or some of the analytics that is sent to the public cloud, but all the processing happens at the edge. So that's where it starts at the edge, and some of the data is stored in the public cloud. So what we're seeing is this elastic cloud is the term that we're using. Our customers still want the cloud experience, so they want the AWS experience, but having the benefits of data sovereignty, privacy, low latency by keeping it at the edge and having more control over it.
One of the themes that I hear loudly this week is cost optimization. Making sure that we can do this at the proper price point, proper cost, and monetization of 5G. And we're seeing the acceleration of the monetization of 5G and cloud together. I would love to understand how you see this and how your customers, how your partners are monetizing 5G at the edge.
I can start. We have probably a pretty interesting perspective on this, because not only are we users of all of this technology, but we're also helping our customers kind of wade through all of these scenarios as well. And frankly, there was a lot of confusion out there. What we were finding is that there were just a lot of questions about what kind of use cases could take advantage of private 5G networks or public 5G networks, as well as the compute that's required at the edge. And so we were helping our customers wade through all of that. I think that the value really gets interesting when you start to push the limits, and where you start to do, one of our, just some background, our philosophy at Slalom is, we help our customers dream bigger, move faster, and build better tomorrows for all. The dream bigger part is what I get really excited about. And I think that when you take compute sitting at the edge as close to the experience or the person or whatever it is that you're trying to create, and you couple that with extreme low latency and the ability to just basically do what you want, that's when those experiences come alive. So I think the value is really coming in not just traditional how people think of monetizing, it's about that creativity that's unleashed as a result of having the ability to work in these tools.
I'd like to pull on that a little bit. John, I think that's a great example, and that's something that we found too, especially in my team where we focus on helping our customers get unstuck with the complexities of edge and edge integration, edge to cloud, et cetera. It boils down to creating an environment for them to build micro experiments that lead to a more holistic solution in the future. And those micro experiments are where we get to actually kick the tires on an idea that could turn into the next major revenue stream for our customers. And that process that we use in order to get to these micro experiments allows us to have, for our customers, a reference architecture that they can then rely upon. It really boils down to normalizing as much as we can at the edge to remove much of the complexity that we typically see in a very heterogeneous environment. It's too many different things, too many protocols, and so forth. So the Snow family, I think, is actually a great way to build a platform to support that use case.
Well, teams are building experiences. They want to bring applications and workloads to the edge. They want to build a better experience for their customers and a better result for their businesses. And I see this every day. I see how motivated they are. Can you give me examples of how you're using 5G connectivity alongside AWS's hybrid edge to deliver these solutions, to deliver these values?
Yeah, some of the solutions I mentioned earlier is using AWS Wavelength. So we have them deployed across 19 locations in the US and using our 5G connectivity to be able to support applications in a distributed manner. The interesting thing is from our perspective, we are monetizing 5G in multiple ways. Obviously, there's 5G mobility. Over 50% of our smartphone users have 5G capable phones. Fixed wireless access, which went from almost nothing to $500 million in 10 months. And then the third area of monetization is edge. And what we're seeing is the ability to put business process on steroids is what I call it, that you can do it. But what we are actually seeing is efficient business processes that edge enables is the starting point. And many of our customers, they take an existing application, put it on the edge, see the performance benefit, and then the next step is to reimagine the business process itself. But the first step is always to take something that they're familiar with, improve the efficiency, gain the financial benefits, and then do the other steps, which is some of the more advanced use cases.
So there are a plethora of capabilities that we have in our portfolio to help folks go from cloud to edge and edge to cloud. But I'd like to hear more about how are you all applying the set of services, the set of capabilities we have to deliver this value between your customers, you as partners, and us as AWS.
I'll add to it. I agree 100% with what you said. It really is about efficiency. There are really three big drivers today for 5G extension, if you would, whether it's public or private. One is automation. There's just not enough workers out there, and there's a real big need for automation. Warehousing probably is one of the leading sectors for automation. We have deployed a warehouse application now for the DoD. It's 1 million square feet. It has 5 types of robotics on it, a full workforce automation as well. They went from 150 people to about 4 people that are going to be running the entire warehouse. If you can imagine a Humvee coming in, being broken down into 300 components, each component is logged and moved around with robots and then reshipped. in order to be retrofitted and come back. That's sort of the operations they have. It cannot be done with humans anymore. There are just not enough engineers who are wanting to get out and be working, or any entry-level people that want to work out in these warehouses anymore. The robotic solutions cannot be done without edge compute. All the data gets logged right there. That edge compute is useless without a cloud application to manage a nationwide inventory management systems. So you need seamless applications to move between the cloud and edge. You also need all the enablement of 5G. You need the integration between public and private networks. You also need the applications themselves, the barcode readers, and all of the other devices that exist in the Amazon Marketplace, for example. That marriage between operators and cloud companies to bring the best of what they have together into one marketplace is what's going to monetize 5G. And just to add a point on that, monetization networks always comes late after you build it. For whatever reason, we do that to ourselves. 4G was built, and then the iPhone came in to generate the monetization model, primarily by bringing 1 million developers into the system that found a way to come generate the data for us to monetize it. 5G is going to be monetized, in my view, with the 1 million SIs and small applications and 5G solutions, warehouse automations, and other agriculture applications that will need a framework which is very similar to this marriage that we see today between operators and cloud companies to create an environment that allow for that. We're at the tipping point of monetizing 5G, and that is really through extending the ecosystem as far as we can.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, we're just like your example, Debika, we're seeing kind of an interesting hybrid version of that as well. I'll give you a great example. So we worked with one of the biggest water utilities on the West Coast, and they came to us with a very simple question. They came to us asking, look, we don't have the greatest connectivity, but we have a lot of facilities, we have a lot of processes, we have issues that we need to really solve for. And what we're not sure of is, what do we need? What kind of infrastructure do we need? And so taking that very broad statement and figuring out how to apply 5G networks, edge compute, devices that will unlock those kinds of use cases was really exciting. And it's really the creativity that this unlocks as well. Because I agree, there's a lot of confusion around, how do you bring these kinds of things to market? And what we're seeing is that it's just an exciting time where our clients are starting to realize that they can actually do the things now that they've always wanted to do. So, for example, we were doing some remote inspections of water treatment facilities where there was little to no connectivity, and they were actually taking a leapfrog from having very little into something where you're using augmented reality devices in real time with training solutions and a tier 2 operator in another state that was helping them navigate through how to troubleshoot turning on a well pump.
It's vital that we deliver value. It's fundamental. Technologies are fun, they're interesting, but if we don't deliver value to our customers, it's just an exercise. You've learned a lot. So what I'd like to understand is, what lessons would you like to convey to the folks that are watching, in your experience of delivering 5G's value, edge value, and cloud value together? Like, what can we teach them, both in terms of building and go to market?
Yeah, what I was going to say is what we've learned, it's been, a couple of years since we've been working on this. First of all is think big, start small. Because a lot of times people want to start with a transformational use case, and that requires a lot of integration, a lot of work, a lot of pieces have to come together. That just delays the start of the project. But if you take something that seems relatively mundane, but build the infrastructure, then the other use cases can be added on with minimal additional cost. The other thing that we've learned is some of these use cases are horizontal. I talked about our accelerated access, which was designed for venues to allow fans to come in and do facial authentication so that it's frictionless. You don't have to go through turnstiles. But that same application on talking to other customers can be used in logistics and in distribution companies where they have a lot of temp drivers. So they use that for access control. And it's still on the edge, but now it's on the private edge instead of the public edge. So I love seeing how a use case that may start in one industry is horizontal and gets translated to a different industry, but using the same underlying enablers, but really helping a business challenge.
I think that's a great point, and it's something that we see oftentimes where we start working with our customers to help them realize the big vision that they've got, and yet we prefer to start small. Let's actually run a micro experiment. And what happens oftentimes, we start down this path, we start looking at what is the use case and who's going to benefit from this, what are the KPIs that we want to track that can show the business some value, and then we find that oftentimes a micro pivot, now it's not even orthogonal, but a micro pivot from that original idea is actually going to be more optimal than what they were originally thinking, yet we still don't lose sight of that big vision. And so again, I think that some of the services that we've been able to employ from AWS, whether it's Greengrass Core, Greengrass 2.0, the direct connectivity into Kinesis to stream data, access to IoT Core using the MQTT protocol and whatnot, setting up that infrastructure, not with a build it and they will come mindset, but setting it up because the integration piece is hard. We know we're going to need it to achieve that bigger vision, and then run these micro experiments to show how the data is going to flow, how we can process it at the edge, and then get that value, that metadata you were talking about earlier, into the cloud for further analysis where we can horizontally scale ad infinitum. That to me is really been the value of the AWS services that we've leaned on and the process that we use to basically think big and start small. So I love that.
I think the Snow family is ideal for what we're talking about. Start right away with one application and start playing with it. I'm just amazed how much of our customers already know what they want to do. They just don't know how to go about it. I see people walking in to say, let's try to design the next 3 years, which is not the people on this panel, obviously, but the people that we see around us that will get stuck into designing forever. And I see people coming in to say, well, here's a quick network. Start tomorrow. Find out how far you can take your application. That's what I love about the Snow family. It comes in different forms. It can come ruggedized. It can come all sorts of ways. But the idea of starting small and be fully connected to the rest of your Amazon experience and the rest of your other experiences. Let your engineers play with it pretty quickly. They'll find out whether the security camera is appropriate or not.
So I'd love to pick up on that. I also love to think big, start small, because that has been the success for many customers for the last 17 years in leveraging the cloud computing paradigm. Right? If you think big and try to act big, you generally don't get anything done. So you're absolutely right. So given that, connectivity is a continuum. Cloud computing is a continuum. Years ago we did not talk about regions to edge, but the world evolves. Our customers evolve. Our partners evolve. We evolve because we listen to what you're saying and we deliver the services that are important so that you can build your solutions and businesses on top of. So given that we live on a continuum, it's not a big bang. If you were to look back a couple of years, we'll say 5 years, you can go with 3 if you want. What would you tell yourselves about, today then? What would you do differently? What would you do the same? How would you help the folks that are out there today listening when they think about themselves today and what they think about themselves 5 years from now? What acceleration do you want to see them appreciate from your experience?
So if I can start from a connectivity standpoint, we actually took a page from AWS in terms of how our customers view network or procure network. Historically, it was very component and circuit and very static. And where we are today compared to 3 or even 5 years ago is network is a service. And our customers shouldn't worry about the specific technology. They should only worry about the outcome. And the provider takes ownership of providing the service as they need it, the SLAs, the outcome. They can flex up and down. They can reconfigure their needs based on their applications, so that now we are building programmable networks so that the application can now talk directly, even before network slicing comes into play, to make sure that the network is adaptable to what's needed. So these are the new aspects of networking, which a lot of the learnings came from the cloud industry, to make it easy, make it dynamic, make it intuitive, and give the control of it back to the users and the applications. So that's exciting to marry these network attributes with cloud attributes.
Yeah, so 5 years ago, what I would have told myself, I would have said that 5G is a national security issue, which I wouldn't have predicted. I would have also told myself the fragmentation in the ecosystem is going to be far worse than you would think, Iyad, and it truly is. Everybody's in 5G business today. Probably even the local pizza joint is probably going to be in the 5G business soon. What's going to happen in 5 years? Fragmentation is going to get out of control, but there will be frameworks provided by operators and cloud companies to organize the masses in order for it to make sense to users. And I would also say the power of the enterprise and the user in determining their own applications, solutions, and destiny in 5G is only going to go up from here.
5 years ago, I would have told myself, actually, I would have taken the advice of the client that I was speaking about, this water utility. He had a great phrase, just take the leap. Take the leap, because what we're exploring right now is a truly creative space. And there are a lot of issues. The fragmentation is absolutely, we see that in a big way. I was surprised at how a lot of the network technologies were outpacing the devices this time. And that was interesting to run into. But it shouldn't stop you, right? I think my only regret is that we didn't jump in and create what we created and got customers thinking about this sooner. Because I think the sooner you jump into this, and you'll run into all kinds of issues. You're going to try to do something, you're going to try and build an experience, and you'll run into a situation where there isn't a device that's going to be able to do what you want it to do. And now you're actually thinking about manufacturing or fabricating something to create the experience that you want to do. But again, that's the wonderful part of creation. I think that we're just in a really amazing time right now where the compute components, they're all there. The software components, they're all there. The networking components, they're there. What was missing, and what was actually got created a couple of years ago, was this flurry of inspiration and flurry of creativity that is now just exciting to kind of ride the wave on.
Yeah, and I think certainly if I could go back in time 5 years, I would be telling myself some of the same things I'm telling myself now. Integration is hard. But to pull on what you all are saying, why are you waiting? Why are you looking at the integration as the long pole in the tent? It is, but let's get started. Let's actually create a steel thread. And we pull it through all the things that we know we need to touch in order to solve a particular problem, and use that as the driver for addressing those integration challenges. It moves us forward quickly, but it doesn't force us to lose sight of our great vision, for that product, whatever it's going to be. And so that integration piece has so many different elements to it. Yes, it's hard, but if we don't get started working a solution based on that steel thread, driving towards that ultimate vision, then we're not going to actually get there. We're going to focus too much time on trying to solve point solutions and not ultimately get to where we need to be as a business. So I would give myself that advice and say, look, you really need to focus on the integration piece in terms of the bigger picture, not just solving one particular point solution.
Well, I'm looking forward to coming back here, 5 years from now, and asking ourselves the same question, and asking our customers and our partners the same question as well. For 17 years, AWS has been delivering cloud value propositions, and today we're delivering that alongside you, from cloud to edge and edge to cloud. We've helped transform the IT industry. A lot of the questions that the telcos and telco industry folks are asking today around, is it possible? Can I do it? Is it real? Were the same questions that their peers in the IT side of the house 17 years ago were asking. And today those questions aren't asked. Is it cost effective? Can I be more agile? Is it secure? Is it reliable? Does it really drive innovation? And those questions aren't asked anymore. They're not the questions on top of mind. It's how can we do more? Tell me how we can get this done. I know we can. And this industry is in this place right now. And you folks are the trailblazers. You're the leaders. You're demonstrating that this is possible now. And what excites me being here this week is seeing what you're doing, what all the folks are doing in all the booths across the entire show. It's simply mind-blowing. And if I could tell myself, my 5-year younger person, which I relish thinking about that for a minute, I would be more of an evangelist. I would get out and talk to more customers. I would bring more examples of how people are succeeding so that they can get inspired to do what you all are doing with your customers and with us as partners. So I want to thank you for being here today. I hope that all of this inspires people out there to know that this is not a pipe dream. Right? We're really taking telco and making it, to use a phrase, technology companies. And I love the point about, taking the network and turning it into a resource that application and workload developers can leverage in the same way they leverage all resources they do today on the cloud. It's a tremendous model. So I want to thank all of you, and I want to inspire the people out there to really listen to what you said and to not have any reservation about engaging you and engaging others and realizing the power of edge to cloud, the power of 5G connectivity, and the marriage between those. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.